What's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? Legendary Talks, episode 117. We have an amazing, interesting lady, Zuhirah I think her last name now is Dara. I'm really excited to talk to her. What's up, Leslie? What's up, guys? Today is DJ Goldfinger's birthday. Let's give it up for Goldfinger, everybody. The amazing, iconic DJ that we all love. And I'm just really excited to chat with her. She has a rich New York culture. Hey, Nell, what's up? Nell Kanjibo. I don't know if she knows how to do this. I should probably have checked with her. Hey, Sid. Let me see if she's on here yet. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey, Erica. Hey, Sid. Yeah, it's Goldfinger's birthday. I'm really excited to chat with him. To celebrate him today, and I'm excited to chat with Zuhirah. She just joined. What's up, guys? Zuhirah, I think you just joined. I'm going to get you in here. Hold on one second. It's not letting me do it. That's strange. Zuhirah, request me. It's not letting me request you for some reason. You have to request to go live with me, and then I'll accept. Yes, it's Goldfinger's birthday. I put on my Instagram the song Millionaire by Khalees, which is kind of our song. He played it before anybody else, and it was very, kind of our moment. And I'm excited to chat with Zuhirah. Like I said, she's a really interesting, unique lady that has a lot of good stories. So, she's excited. I talked to her earlier. I got ready in 2 seconds, hence my outfit.
Hey.
Hi.
What's going on?
Welcome. How you feeling?
Good. I couldn't get this to work on my computer, so I have to hold my phone the whole time.
Okay. What should our drinking word be?
Les?
That description. Thank you for doing this. This is my 117th show. I have done many people. I think you've seen a bunch. Here we're celebrating people that have been instrumental and important to moments of culture, specifically New York in the 90s and 2000s and 80s. You know, the last 3 decades, I guess, in New York that have been really interesting and unique. Some have been celebrated a lot. Some haven't been celebrated that much. So, none of that matters to me. Just I wanted the opportunity to celebrate individuals that I think are important. So you being one of them.
Oh, thanks so much, Damon. Of course, you mean so much to me, and this series has been so great the whole pandemic. It's been definitely a touchstone for me and a great opportunity to really sort of like reconnect with a lot of that old New York culture that you're bringing here and throughout these like really difficult times. It's been really nice to like remember those really good times and those really important moments for us coming up in the city.
Well, it's interesting. The first couple months I was doing it, I was seeing kind of the party going on within the comments, the Stretch Armstrongs and Beverly Bonds and, everybody, Goldfinger's. It's Goldfinger's birthday, by the way. Everyone talking to each other, Jessica Rosenblum, Belinda Becker in the comments talking with, and that's been great. Those are, people, I've gotten a chance to interview, so many people that have been so important to even, me and where I creatively came up with my own, self in a lot of ways. So that's been really great for me as well. Cathartic. Okay, so I want you to describe yourself. Describe yourself to me as if we've never met.
La-di-da-di. I like to party. I am, I think fun, free-spirited, not to be cliche, person really that likes to be able to express myself and feel comfortable in my own skin and being myself. And I think that's what drew me to New York. Um, I also, I am very, it's weird. I'm like two sides of me, like very analytical and like heady and philosophical to a certain extent, but also like to party, as I said, very much so. So I guess I'm a deep thinker, but also I like to not think or really feel and be in the moment. Um, and I love music, I love art, I love culture. I love this city.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, okay, so I was thinking about you today, and I was thinking that we actually, if you look at us, we have nothing in common, but we actually do have a lot in common, you and I, in a lot of ways. You, to me, the way that I am, kind of your whole life has been about culture, as mine has, and you really don't care what anyone thinks of you. You really don't, nor do I. So I was thinking about you and I, and you're also one of those people that you go out to have fun. A lot of people don't do that. You go out to have fun. Some people go out to escape their problems or life or whatever. You go out literally to have fun. And you also navigate really well. You're kind of very mutable in the way that I am. I always say you can put me in any room. It could be, I don't care what kind of person it is. I will be fine. You're that same way. You can kind of navigate any room really well. But like,
yeah, I mean,
so.
I love meeting different people. Again, like why we're here. I think what drew both of us to the city. I mean, I was born in New York. I was born in Queens and lived here till I was 11, but then came back for college, specifically to, be, exposed to a lot of different people and ways of thinking and doing. Um, even as a young girl growing up in Queens, I remember my ninth birthday, my mom asked me what I wanted to do. And I wanted to go to Greenwich Village and get a falafel, walk around, look at people, get a falafel. And at the time, Haagen-Dazs ice cream was everything, get a Haagen-Dazs ice cream. But it was like to go to Greenwich Village specifically because of, like, I think the freedom of thought there and different types of people, and being exposed to those things. And so downtown in New York has always been like a touchstone for me in that way. And like your parties, I think, really personify the sort of multiplicity of the city and all that's like going on here.
Thank you. Well, first of all, that makes total sense to me that you would go to Greenwich Village at 9 years old. That makes sense to me. That makes sense. What was it like being, I'm obsessed with New York kind of in the 80s and basically before I lived there. What was it like growing up in Queens in New York and that time, describe that to me.
Yeah, it was incredible. Hip hop was like, I guess they said the birth was in 76, which is when I was born. But really in its like beginning stages. And so like, of course they're like outside on the stoops. We had houses in Queens, but like we sat outside on the stoops and we like did all the new dances and the WAP and like the ALF or, whatever the dance was and like memorized hip hop songs and like, all that. And like then the older kids would come back and talk about like going uptown to the rooftop. I remember that. And then the rooftop dance and like the older kids would come back and like tell us about all of that. But really it was like being on the stoop with your friends, memorizing rap lyrics, like hearing, like I went to elementary school in College Point, Queens, and I got bussed in from East Elmhurst, which is near LaGuardia Airport. But then kids from the 40 projects in Jamaica also got bussed in. And it's like they used to talk about LL, walking around the projects and like him getting beat up and his radio taken and all that. So like there was all that going on as well. So it was like all very close. And even when I moved to Bermuda, when I was 11, where my mom is from, Play from Kid and Play moved into our house. And they filmed that like on a roll video in that school at the end of our block. So it was all like very close and like Salt and Pepper and all them were in the neighborhood too.
So you grew up with it. What's the first album
Hey, Candy. The first album I got, Probably Michael Jackson,
Thriller.
Thriller. But my parents had Sugar Hill Gang. Like they had the vinyl. I remember that.
I ban Michael Jackson from this question because everybody says Michael Jackson, but I forgot to do it with you, so we'll accept that. Concert you ever went to?
First concert. Um, the first concerts I remember were at the Queen's Museum, like jazz concerts with my mom. They used to have like these jazz quartets play there. And I would go with her there as like my first memory. But then like as a teenager, as I said, I moved to Bermuda in high school. And so I remember Black Sheep coming to Bermuda and going to see them play in Bermuda. And then afterwards, racing my bike. We had motorcycles there with Drez, like after the club, like drag racing down the street because he had a scooter.
Of course. And then what's the first video, non-Michael Jackson, and I only exclude him because everyone says him, not to throw him any shade. What's the first video, non-Michael Jackson, that rocked your world? Music video.
I mean, I have to say Prince Purple Rain. I know it was a music video, but I remember we had, like, my father was big into Prince, and so, like, he bought it on VHS, like, as soon as it was available, or beta, whatever it was back then. And so that was really impactful, like, you know, as a video experience.
Well,
sorry, like I know it's very basic.
I was showing movies here. I was showing movies in LA last year, and I showed Purple Rain for the first time in like, I hadn't seen it in like 10 years. It's, first of all, stood the test of time, but it's basically like a glorified music video. It's amazing. I mean, it is very like,
totally.
Like, so that's a great answer. And then why do you think that you so strongly gravitated towards hip hop? What do you think drew you in so strongly?
Well, coming up with it in Queens, but also when I moved to Bermuda was also how I made friends. Like I would like show off like the raps that I knew. And it was a way for me to like make friends and sort of like build bridges with the people there. They're really into reggae, obviously, but you know, hip hop was on the rise, and like I was this girl from New York, and like I was rhyming, but also like there's just this way, the storytelling of it, and then really like I was Muslim, so like there was a lot of Islam influence references in it, where and like it was like one of the only places like where I could like see myself in popular culture or like hear anything related to what I knew and who I was growing up, and my identity. And so that I think was an important part of it. And just these strong voices of, you know, like people being able to tell their stories. And like I've always been interested in people. And so like the storytelling aspect of it, I think.
And then what does hip hop mean to you on a whole, like in your life? Hip hop, like as a broad term, what does it mean to you? Like now, like I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's been really defining, like on a personal level. Even a lot of like my friendships, my closest friendships, have been like formed via the music and a common like appreciation of it. But also it was my professional life. I was a hip hop publicist, and then went on to market with it at Converse. But I think it's really been it's where I've like found joy and freedom. Really, I think maybe that's it. It's joy and freedom for me, and so I give thanks for it, and like being able to find a home in it. I think also like the moving around I did, like from New York to Bermuda, and then back again. Like it's always sort of been there with me, and like been a home, a place of comfort.
Freedom, and it was your safe place. Those are great answers.
Yeah.
Okay, so you moved back to New York. What's the first club you ever remember going to?
When the first club, so visiting New York as a like 15-year-old, I went to Soul Kitchen.
Oh, wow.
And I got a fake ID on 8th Street. Like I had older cousins that were here and they hung out in the village. And like they took me out. I was visiting from Bermuda and we went to Soul Kitchen and like we went to 8th Street to get like a fake ID for me so that we can get into Soul Kitchen. And that was like amazing experience. And so that's probably my first like club experience. But then when I came back to college, I was doing like Giant Step and those parties like down by Union Square and like Lucky Strike and things like that.
Do you remember?
And then like real underground like hip hop clubs.
Do you remember Cafe Tabac?
Yes, that was like the very sexy like red velvet place. I love that.
That was one of the first I remember kind of really being amazing. What okay, so Giant Step, and then what other like parties or clubs were popular during that time?
Yeah, there was True that like Stretch DJ'd at, Blow Pop. Like I promoted a lot of those parties or made calls for Carlos and Bill Spector for those parties, Blow Pop and True.
Hold on. So when you say made phone calls, then maybe some people that don't know exactly what that means. In the 90s, you had to call people and say, come to my party tonight, right?
Yes.
So,
like a long list of hundreds of names.
Yep.
And like you got a lot of answering machines and you just had to leave messages and invite people to parties. And like they didn't know you. Like it wasn't even my party. Yeah. I was just making calls for them. So it was like, hi, this is Zuhirah. I'm calling for Carlos and Bill. Stretch is DJing tonight at True. I give the address. Let us know if you want the list. Call back if you want the list. And like that's how you got the list. So no emails, no texts, none of that. All phone calls. But it was fun. It was fun. I guess it was like I ended up being a publicist. It was like my first like publicity, like cold calling folks job, you know.
So then how did you start working with Stretch and Bobbito? How did that come up?
So I was at Columbia and a student there, and I loved hip hop and used to actually I was missing reggae. So like all the time I was in Bermuda, I was like the big hip hop girl and ambassador. And then when I get back to New York, I become like this big reggae person. I'm like missing reggae. And so there was a radio show on WKCR called Reggae Rhythms, and it came on Thursday nights right before the Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito show. But like, so I was there. I was a intern there, and then I'm like a co-host there on Reggae Rhythms. And I got my license, my radio license, to be on the radio. But I knew Stretch and Bob from like the clubs. So like, cause I used to go to all the parties that Stretch DJ'd. And he knew us from Columbia and like the radio station and like would give us rides home sometimes, like me and my friends. And so he would let us hang out at the show, which was like super cool because like, you know, it was like such the epicenter of like hip hop at that time. And like all these unsigned artists like Jay-Z and Nas and everybody under the sun was coming up to be on the show. And like, we just got to hang out and like help out. So like, they call me intern now. Like I'm their former intern. I was kind of unofficial intern and really just like a little sister that hung around the station and just soaked it all up.
Just in case people don't know, Stretch and Bobbito show is like so important to hip hop in the 90s and so instrumental in kind of like launching basically Biggie, you know, not instrumental, but it is a part of launching so many careers, including like Biggie, Nas, Jay-Z, Wu-Tang, DMX, all these people were coming up there and then they would get signed after. I mean, they were coming on their show. So being a part of that or even being around that, I'm sure it was a little bit before my time, was such an amazing, just even energetically an amazing time. What are some of the highlights for you for that?
Just like seeing people freestyle, seeing people freestyle. I used to record the show as well, listening to the show late at night, like just that sort of because it came on at Thursday night from 1 to 5 in the morning. So just the experience of being up there in like those graveyard hours, like the graveyard shift of being up there. And it was unsigned talent. It was like a lot of people, like, in addition to all those names, there was just a lot of other MCs that you never heard from again. But it was the energy and the love for the music that was just like, it was just so raw. It was just,
Yeah.
it was like electric. It was electric up there. It was really incredible to like, and it was fun and like funny, and it was a community. So I really enjoyed it.
Which I think you're in the documentary, right? Are you in it?
Yep, I'm in it.
Netflix, right?
It was on Netflix. It's definitely on iTunes now. Yeah, but it's around Stretch and Bobbito Radio that changed lives. You can go to stretchandbobbito.com and they have the information on the documentary. It's like the best documentary, in my opinion, on 90s hip hop. So like if you love hip hop, like you should totally see it. They got everybody in it from Jay and Nas, and like, you know, Jay doesn't do that many interviews these days, but he got on to do the interview with them. And like to see how like even Nas was like transported back to that moment that was just so special before things like really blew up. And I was thinking about like the hip hop clubs back then. It was like, you know, you only could hear hip hop like in these like spaces, like on that radio show, like in certain clubs. It wasn't everywhere, you know. So it was a really special moment, and like form community and friendships with the people who were there with you, like that, like lasted, you know, a lifetime.
It was pure during that time. It was very pure. Okay, so what's your first memory of me?
First memory of you, and I don't even know if you remember this, was at El Flamingo. No. You were working the door.
Definitely not.
It was maybe a Bill Spector party. And like that was like, I don't even know when that was, maybe 99, 98, 99. And then we met officially. And I would see you at the doors of a lot of different parties. Like I know you did the door at Cheetah. And then we met officially through Converse. When I was working at Converse, I was the like brand Infusion lead, like give entertainment marketing, getting like shoes, Converse sneakers on like every like artist and like in videos and that sort of thing. And someone was like, "Oh, you need to talk to Damon to get some shoes to Khalees." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I need to get some shoes to Khalees." And like this mutual friend connected us, and it was kind of on from then on.
But don't you have a story about you coming up to the door and me letting you in instinctually? Don't you have some story about that or not? I thought you told me.
Maybe that was El Flamingo. Like I remember, you know, like a lot of parties, and towards the late 90s when things started to get like like more jiggy and blown up, like, you know, it could like clubs got to be like you know, like a hassle sometimes, like, you know, like, okay, I know the promoter, but if they weren't at the door, it was like a huge thing if like I didn't remember to get myself on a list. But like your energy was always good, and like I always had before I even knew you, was like real. It was like, he's cool.
So my first memory of you is the Converse. I remember coming to your office and us meeting at Converse, and I thought, wow, this girl's really together. She really has her stuff together. And I'm like, wait, she's a hot mess. She's a freaking hot mess. I love you know, you are that. You're very together, and you're a very hot mess. I love that. I mean, that's one of your brilliant things about you. But also, so during that time, that was the late 90s. You know, downtown New York City during that time was like an amazing energy that, like, you know, you really had to be there to experience. It was a real moment in New York City time and a real moment in hip hop, because I feel that, you know, it was like the last pure moment before hip hop then became like the mainstream. So we were experiencing it in real time, you know, right before hip hop blew up. It was really like, interesting time.
Ooh, Bobbito just joined. Bob, we were just talking about you and the specialness of your show.
Yeah, special, unique time, that late 90s, because it was the last pure moment before hip hop became like mainstream. So, and we were all a part of it. It's kind of like, you know, like Jay-Z and Puffy and all them were started coming to the downtown parties, and then they kind of influenced who then what even they did musically. And what you remember the Jay-Z song, So Ghetto, it's like, what's it like? He says something like, Monday nights at Cheetah, Wednesday nights at Shine, Mondays I'm up in Cheetah. Those are the parties. I was working all those parties. I remember him telling me that he was going to put Shine in one of the songs. So like, it was all happening kind of in real time, and we were all a part of it. It was really a unique, interesting time, you know? It's like, they were...
And it's funny.
Full circle, you know?
Totally. And it's funny because you were talking about sort of like I was this together person at work, and then like a messy party girl. That was so funny because, of course, I was Jay's publicist when I worked at Def Jam. I did all his publicity, and then like I would run into him in the clubs. And like, not that I was messy in front of him. I tried to maintain some professionalism. But he was so surprised to see me in the clubs, because even though a lot of the music industry people went out, they went out to music industry parties. And so there was a difference back then between industry parties and club nights. And so like the club nights were like really sort of reserved for like, not reserved, but like, you know, he didn't expect to see an industry person there, or didn't know really this other side of me.
Well, you were more part of the scene than you were part of like the industry, in my opinion. You know, you've always been kind of a unique and tastemaker type person. You know, I hate that word, but you really were, and you were smart. The way you navigated was very smart, just very, you know, part of the downtown scene. Not, you know, I didn't consider you an industry person. I consider you part of our downtown movement at the time. You know, so.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I mean, I loved working in the music industry, but it was definitely like, you know, the ability to like really connect with a community of people that really loved music and the culture drove and inspired me in my job, you know. So it wasn't just about being in office and like working, you know, these acts, but it was about my real love for the music and the culture, which I really got to take part in, and not from a business side, like at night and during the nightlife. At the nightlife too.
What are some of the things so you're Jay-Z's publicist?
Love you too, Bob.
What you're Jay-Z's publicist, what years?
I was his publicist from 2000 to 2001.
And then what kind of things did you do for him? What were you doing for him?
So yeah, I did all his publicity. He only wanted covers. But I got him his first Saturday Night Live appearance. And this is when he was like 3 albums deep. It was for the Dynasty Rock La Familia record, which was the record that I worked. And so I was like on all those video shoots, you know, I Just Want to Love You, all that with John Witherspoon's, like, and all the, you know, video girls and all that lore. So I was on all those scenes. Like I take press to cover the videos, to photographers, to get him like in Rolling Stone or whatever magazine, get him a cover of Vibe. But he was 3 albums deep and had never been on Saturday Night Live. And I had like, it took me 3 months pitching Lauren Michaels to get him on Saturday Night Live. And that was his first appearance in 2001. And so like, that's one of, I think, the highlights of my career, because people think, you know, oh, it's Jay-Z, you know, it's easy, it's a piece of cake. But back then, you know, hip hop, not many doors were open for hip hop. And so also like, again, like I really, with this like deep love that I had for the music and the culture, it really drove really trying to take the culture through those doors that weren't open back then. And it was the same with like the Roots. I was the Roots tour publicist in 1996 through 1998 when they were just on the road like 300 days a year. And I was just like on those phones. This is where that like calling in for the calling people to come to parties came in handy. I was calling Austin American Statesman, San Diego Bee, come out and review the show, come out, check out the Roots. You know, they're an amazing, talented hip hop band. There's nothing like them in the world. You know, like I was like, really like, that's where I really, I think, earned my like publicity stripes, was working them. And that was the beginning of my career, but like worked them, worked with De La Soul, who I loved. And so I got to work with a lot of groups that I really loved. So it was more than a job. And I know that the artists that I work appreciated that. Even Jay he didn't know about the party side of me, but he knew that I came from like the underground,
Yeah.
from the radio station, from working with the Roots. And so he appreciated that I appreciated his art on that level. Like not just like the pop #1 single, but like appreciated like his rhymes, like his bars, in a way that might not, yeah, and truly appreciate his artistry. And so I really tried to bring that to my work.
So during that time in 2000, 2001, what was he focused on? Where was his head at, do you think, at that time?
He really wanted to be the best. It was like, right. It wasn't like the battle with Nas hadn't like happened yet.
Yeah.
But like Biggie had died a couple of years earlier. And he just really wanted it was after Hard Knock Life and like the sort of that really put him on the pop map. It was really about like, he really wanted to get back. He knew Reasonable Doubt, like the critics held him to Reasonable Doubt as like his best album. And he was really trying with Rock La Familia. And I think he really got there with Blueprint and even Black Album afterwards, like really trying to, meld that pop sensibility with like that true hip hop, like, 5 mic classic worthy album, you know?
Yeah, no, they always say everyone's first album is their best album because they're the most hungry, but then he tried to remain, and I'm only paraphrasing, but he tried to remain true to himself and the streets while still making music that everyone could hear, basically, you know?
Yeah. It was really about getting those two together. Yeah.
And, you know, be honest with this. Did you see him becoming what he is today then?
Yes. I always knew he was the smartest guy in the room, like any room. He was always the smartest guy in the room. He knew how to like navigate the world in a way like I could recognize from like, you know, non sort of music places, or less or more structured places. But like he was always about his business. Like I remember once he beat me to a photo shoot. Like this isn't something that like that happens often, but like it was an early morning shoot for USA Weekend, the USA Today Insert magazine cover, and I have it framed over here somewhere. But he beat me to that shoot. I got there and he was sitting in his SUV, waiting for me to go upstairs to the studio. But yeah, always about his business, and just like he's a brilliant guy, and so I knew. He was going to be around for a while.
Well, it's interesting because I think about him back then, let's say late 90s, and I dealt with him a lot too. We all did. He was always mild-mannered, always gentleman, realistically a gentleman. I mean, I had to tell him he couldn't come in certain parties for various reasons. You know, the door was closed by the police or something, and he always took it the best out of any other person. You know, like, did I ever tell you my DMX story?
Oh, no.
Wait, hold on. First, I want to ask you one more question before we go there. So, because, you know, I believe that people like us influence people all the time, whether they want to say it or not. So do you think that Jay-Z learned anything from you, or that you influenced him in any way during that time? How do you, maybe it was to be punctual, or, you know, maybe you had some slight influence on him, do you think? In what way?
Wow, that's a good question. I think, let's see. I don't know. That's a really good question. I know that
That's a hard question.
like in our interactions, like, you know, it was really, you know, about the music and like, you know, trying to stay true to hip hop and like it's pure form. And so we had a lot of, you know, interactions like that. So I think that maybe he took some of that,
Yeah.
hopefully, and carried it on.
Yeah,
Carried it with him.
that was really about the culture at that time, maybe, you know, something like that. So, okay. So my DMX story, I was doing a tour at Cheetah. DMX's album had come out, probably, I don't know, 99, I can't remember whatever year that album came out. His first album, Where My Dog's At, that one. I loved the album. I bought it. It came out like on a Monday, and then the following Monday, he comes to Cheetah. I would listen to it every single day that week. I almost, at that point, probably knew every single song by heart, like 7 days later. It was the #1 album in the country, and he came to the tour at Cheetah, but he had 30 guys with him, and you've been to Cheetah. I'm like, oh my God, what You know, I was a fan. I purchased the album and listened to it a million times, you know, in those 7 days. So his boy comes up and he's like, yo, we got DMX here. And I'm like, what? How can I deal with this situation right now where it doesn't turn into like something crazy? So I just played dumb. I was like, who? He goes, DMX. I was like, I'm not familiar. Who, you know, and he's like, he got the #1 album in the country. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like, congratulations. I'm just not really familiar with his work. And he's like, I'm like, I don't really know who that is. And they're like, I'm like, are you guys on the guest list? I was playing dumb the whole time for like 20 minutes. They just got so frustrated. They ended up leaving because they thought that I legitimately didn't know who it was. Like, there's no other way to deal with that situation at all. You know? So I just played dumb and they ended up leaving like amicably, not going crazy.
Wow.
And I was like,
wow.
I was just like, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm not familiar, you know. I'm like, congratulations, you have the album. I'm really happy for you, but I'm just not familiar with the work. I knew it by heart, the songs, you know. I was like, but I didn't. There's no other way to deal with that. I didn't know what to do. I think I did the best you could do in that situation. You mean?
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm so impressed, and that he listened as well. I remember once he like made me smoke a blunt with him before he did an interview. Like we were at some video shoot, and like, you know, he was like in the trailer and wouldn't come out of the trailer to do an interview with like a journalist that was there, and he was like, Zola? Call me Zola. X was crazy. But he's like, Zola, okay, I'll do this interview, but you gotta smoke this blunt. And so I don't think I inhaled. But yeah, he did do the interview eventually.
That's kind of a good DMX, by the way. You're doing a good DMX. I like DMX.
He was a great, amazing guy.
Yes. So the Jay-Z song is so ghetto, and it was like Wednesdays I'm up and shine, Cheetah Monday nights. And that was like I said, that's what we were doing at the time. So like I said, once they all started coming to the downtown parties, it was like we were influencing them, but they were influencing us. It was a very unique time where like I did both of those parties. And I remember Jay-Z telling me he's going to mention Shine in one of his parties, you mean? And one of his songs. And that song came out quick. I feel like it was about 2 or 3 months later. But I remember when they were like releasing songs about the parties that we were doing at that time. You know, it was a really interesting, unique time where kind of downtown and like the hip hop things were converging in a way that they hadn't, I don't think, prior, you know? And
yeah. Though when he started mentioning cheetahs, it was like 2 or 3 years after like I had started going. So I was like, okay, nice for you to mention cheetah, but you know, me and my crew got it popping first.
To come to the downtown parties. I remember vividly, you know?
Oh, New Music Cafe. That was a good one.
That was.
I remember I met Biggie there.
Yeah, me too. Same thing. That was
yeah.
Went on to be Shine, same club.
Oh, Shine, exactly.
That was one of my first. Cafe Tabac and New Music Cafe were probably my first 2 hip hop parties that I fell in love with in New York. I've been there for a couple months in New York. I met so many people at New Music Cafe. Everton, Jessica Rosenblum, Taquana, Biggie. You know, that's when Mark used to open for Stretch. Remember? Mark Ronson? Anyway, okay. So what was next for you after that? What was the next thing for you?
So after the music industry, like I burnt out at Def Jam, like really did, because it was crazy. I was doing DMX and Jay-Z and Ja Rule and Ludacris and Redman and Meth Man all at the same time, all wanted covers, all had albums out in the same month. It was incredible. And like back then, there was the Source and Vibe, and that was it. You weren't getting shit else, you know? And so it was crazy. I was in LA for like it was supposed to be a 3-day trip. It turned into a 3-week trip. And you know, me and Damon Dash never got along because I was never one to really put up with like some BS. And so we always clashed because a lot of people enabled him just because of Jay, but I didn't have it in me to do that. So after a big blowout with him, I quit the music industry, started my own business. Converse sneakers was one of my first clients. Bobito was one of my first clients. He had Where You Get Those Sneaker book about New York City sneaker culture. I did the press for that book. De La Soul, I did some press for them. And then the Bronx Museum of the Arts, they had a hip hop exhibit going on at the time, which was really cool. And then I eventually went on board with Converse sneakers, which when I met you, and that was also when like fashion started blowing up. It was like hip hop music, and then it was like hip hop fashion and like sneakers, especially. And so That was crazy. And like I utilized my old connections to like give sneakers to like, you know, people like Jay and stuff and De La and Ludacris and like my old intern from Geffen, where was one of the first record labels I worked at, like was managing the Strokes at the time. And so like it was just like on. So like he was like supplying the Strokes with Converse. I had like the whole world wearing Converse. And Snoop, I was flying Snoop out to open Foot Locker with Converse. It was so crazy fun. We were doing parties at Sundance with the Fader magazine. Shout out to the Fader and everybody over there, like doing Coachella, doing all this. This is like in '04. And then Nike bought Converse. And so I didn't want to work for Nike. I never wanted to work for like a big institution like that or big organization like that. And so I took my stock options, which I got from, because when I was working for Converse, it had just gotten bought out of bankruptcy, and the venture capitalist that bought it had given the staff stock options. And so when it gets sold, I had a little bit of change. And so I moved to Europe and went to grad school there and did my master's thesis on hip hop and its community creating aesthetics. And then I lived there for 3 years in Amsterdam. I went to the University of Amsterdam and lived there and did my master's in cultural analysis, my thesis on hip hop, and then came back here and kind of, you know, did a lot of jumping around, like went back to Il Bagato, which is another great New York institution, a restaurant that Babito used to DJ at. I ended up DJing at a little bit and working at.
He just got, New York Times named her the queen of, you know, the Lower East Side for the past 2 decades.
Oh yes, I saw that. B is amazing. B, I think, was like a member of Zulu Nation in Italy. It's like, you know, she's from Rome. Hey, Janine, the former bartender for Il Bagatos on. So yeah, be the owner, like deep hip hop roots, married to Julio from Lower East Side. And so I was there working and about to go to grad school and then started working at a nonprofit. And so I've been working at, in the nonprofit industry for the past 10 years now. Right. Like with the National Urban League, which is a civil rights organization. So like really taking my PR and marketing experience in entertainment and music, and using it to promote causes, and social and social impact. And so, I worked at the National Urban League for 8 years, and then I moved to Africa. Got married. My husband is from Burkina Faso in West Africa. He worked downtown. I met him in a club. He worked security, at Von Bar. At a certain point, like, you know, I was still going out, like in like my mid 30s, and like, you know, I knew the promoter, I knew the security, and I knew the DJ. And in any case, I met my husband at Von Bar downtown on Bowery and Bleecker, and he's from Burkina Faso, but we moved to Zanzibar, West Africa. In East Africa, an island in East Africa, in 2016, and lived there for 2 years. Just picked up and went. My friend Samira, who you know, a DJ in London, I met her when I was in Amsterdam. She was spending the winter there and was like, you should come and hang out. And I was like, yeah, I wanted to quit my job. I had been in my job for 8 years anyway. And I was like, ready for a change. I was like, maybe, you know, I'll quit my job and just like ride out the summer while I figure out what to do next. And my husband agreed to go along for the ride. And so we went there, and she's half Zanzibari, half Dutch. And so she had family roots there. And I went there and I started working with the film festival there and some nonprofits there, foundations that were like building water pipelines and stuff. And it was incredible. It was so beautiful. And I started promoting parties again. I don't know if I told you that, Damon. I was promoting parties for expats, like mainly expats and like middle-class Zanzibaris, at the Park Hyatt Hotel, and which is like the fanciest hotel on the island, in Stone Town, Zanzibar. And we do these monthly parties. They're called Enigma Nights. And with like Afro pop DJs, you bring in DJs from Tanzania. DJ Moma came and did a New Year's Eve party for us. He's there right now. So crazy. I'm so jealous. And so it was so much fun. It was like and I was able to. I loved it there. I loved Africa. I love Africa. But I was able to. I felt like really balance those two sides of myself. When I was there, I felt really balanced. Like I was working with the nonprofit stuff, but I was really still able to like party and like connect with people and have community and still be a mother. I'm a mother too, and still be a mother and a wife and like have all these things go on. Like here, it's so things like you can. It feels a lot of times you can only have one or the other, you know. So that was great being there and doing that and
well-rounded.
yeah, it felt like a really like
Let me ask you one question.
well-rounded life.
What are the 3 best parties of all time that you've been to?
Okay. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You know what I have a lot of fond memories of? That party on around the time BB was doing a documentary for you on you. Shout out to BB. I don't know if she's up. It's very late in Amsterdam. Our friend who did a documentary on Damon. It was in like in the 20s. It was called Supper.
Room service.
Room service. I saw Sherry. I was at Il Bagato the other day, and Sherry walked by, and it was so cool to see her. Sherry used to do the door there. I really liked room service. It was like a really nice space. It was the energy was incredible.
Sorry to cut you off. That party, Kanye West was coming there right when he was blowing up, and a lot of those people, Hood by Air was kind of emerging from there, and all these kind of like people that went on to be Telfar used to come there. All these people that have gone on to be these really successful in art in general. We were doing. It was me and somebody else. I don't remember who else, but me and one more person, and we were like Diablos performed there, Kid Cudi performed there, everyone's performed there when they were like starting their careers. Because we were doing 90s music at a time when other people weren't doing 90s music. We were doing it kind of like before that trend. So, and it was a really cool party. I agree. I forgot about that party.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. And I mean, I'm just gonna say the things that are coming to mind now. It's really hard to say, but Lotus was really special as well. And I really appreciated it because it was post 9/11 when nightlife had like really slowed down in the city. But it was there, and it was there for everybody. And it was everybody. It was all types of people. Again, in that moment when like sort of hip hop was everywhere, but everywhere wasn't hip hop. It still was a fancy party at a nice place.
That's a great way of saying that, by the way. Today is Goldfinger's birthday, by the way, the DJ from Lotus.
Happy birthday. He was amazing. I just remember standing there in the booth, like next to him, like spinning and, then like, you had NBA players, you had like, drag queens, you had, rappers, you had like Lisa Cooper and her crew, and like Zoe Kravitz used to come. She was like 16. She was like me going to Soul Kitchen when I was 15. She was like maybe 16, and Lisa had gotten her fake ID or something. But like, it was like Zoe Kravitz, and then like, it was just incredible. And then like just the amazing energy and like the people that you drew around you, like just like free people and people like, and you created this space where people could be free and like themselves and like their most fabulous selves, even though I sometimes wear sweatpants, and you call me Les for it, and we'll drink to that. Yes. It was really special. I loved it. And like that moment as well. And like, a lot of my friends had stopped going out by then, were like really deep into their careers and everything. And I was still managing the two sides of myself, trying to balance them. And so like Lotus Sundays was like, it gave me energy to go throughout the week, really, like it gave me a burst, to keep me going.
3 favorite rappers. Say it off the top of your head.
Okay, so I mean, I guess like I have to say Jay-Z. Like Jay-Z is like my favorite rapper. He is, just because like for all the reasons I stated earlier. Pasta News from De La Soul. Just brilliant and creative and innovative, and like, love him. His lyrics are just incredible. And then I say Jizza. I have to pick a remember. That's the heady, like more like, intellectual part of me. And like, but like, yeah, I love Jizza.
Three best DJs.
Three best DJs. I've been having so much fun on Instagram back in like these virtual clubs. Stretch, like, I don't know, he's like magic, and like is like brilliant, and like his knowledge of like hip hop and reggae and everything in between, and putting it together to move a crowd, like rock a club, whoa, is incredible. Mark Ronson, we were really good friends back then, and like his mashups of hip hop and rock and pop in a club setting, like
At that time,
without being like contrived,
yeah,
was like, and like really feeling natural, and like that he could like really authentically like do both.
but
And then DJ Scratch. DJ Scratch, I think just like his timing, his mixes, I just really loved, like, I've only been in a party, him and Jazzy Jeff. Jazzy Jeff is incredible.
oh, that's four.
And I love, there's so many, I don't want to say anybody else's name. I love a lot of DJs, but like, I love especially the ones that have a hip hop bias.
I couldn't pick three if I had to. If someone asked me, I couldn't pick three. Have you seen Mark Ronson recently?
Last time I saw him was when I was in grad school in Europe, and he was spinning in London New Year's Eve, and I went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen him since then.
I see him from time to time, and he's like exactly the same. I always say, I was at the Oscars last year when he won the Oscar. I'm like, Mark Ronson, he hasn't changed one bit. He's the same sweet, humble, cool guy. Like, he's the exact same person. So, I mean, he's just.
So I promoted the party that Blow Pop that he spun for Bill Spector, one of his first parties. And I had to, like, when I was making that calls, it was like, this is this guy, Mark Ronson, DJing. He's like a mini Stretch. Literally, that's what I was saying on the calls. And so that night I went to the party, which was on, like, right around the corner from St. Mark's Place, just this really dark, small club. Nobody was there. Nobody came. But Biggie's album had just come out. And he basically played album cuts the whole night. And I had just gotten the record as well, and like I had listened to it. And so I knew all the lyrics to all the album cuts on the record. And he was like, what? And so we ended up, me and my friends, and he eventually started dating my best friend. But like, we went back to his parents' penthouse and like hung out, and like, he was like, yeah, I just got my turntables like a year ago, or something crazy like that. He had just gotten his turntables. And I was like, wow, man, that's really cool. But he was like, you guys hang out with Stretch and Bobbito? He was very impressed with that.
He's great still. My point is, like, he hasn't changed one bit for how successful he's become. For O'Neill McKnight's suggestion, I'm going to start doing something called Legendary Moments. So do you remember any legendary moment between you and I? What's the most legendary moment we've shared together that you can think of?
I don't know. I don't know. Some of my favorite moments with you are like remember we used to make that chicken salad? We used to go to like the Chinese restaurant and buy the roast chickens and then like make it, because you were like always trying to get me to eat healthy, like my dad, and be healthier in general as a person. And used to make these great chicken salads, and like going to the the Spanish restaurant, getting the rotisserie chicken, pulling it apart, and eating the salad.
Story, but that's not a legendary moment by any means. But
it's legendary to me, because it was very meaning.
It's okay. So let me ask you.
There's too many of the legendary moments like that stands out though.
Boo. So if you could have 4 people to dinner, living or dead, anyone in the world, who would it be?
4 people. Zora Neale Hurston. Maya Angelou. Malcolm X.
Ooh.
And Derrida.
Good. Interesting. Very unique. Okay, so before we wrap it up, I want to ask you 4 questions. What inspires you right now in life? What are you inspired by?
I'm inspired by my kids. Just seeing them grow and like them express themselves is like so interesting to me. Yeah. I've always liked new things, and like every moment with them is new. And so that's great. And it's like seeing them grow in their development, especially them expressing themselves. I'm inspired by like this new virtual world we're living in, and like this IG moment, and its potential to continue to connect people and create community, which is, you know, so important to me and been a driving force in my life. And hey, Candy. And what am I inspired by? Nature.
Good. That's a good one. What are you grateful for right now?
I'm sorry?
What are you grateful for?
Oh, I'm grateful for my family, my husband. He's here, sitting here on the couch right now, listening in. He was in Burkina Faso for the first 3 months of the pandemic, and so which was really difficult to manage this without him, and feel disconnected, especially during like this moment in the world. So I have a new appreciation for our partnership, our marriage. Hey, Janine, love you. Our partnership, our marriage, him as a father, and how he adds to my life. And makes me less messy. And I'm like my family, like, you know, just having their support and love. My brother is on here, and my family is incredibly supportive. Moving around, you know, as I said, like, you know, and being Muslim and being a little different, like we've always
unique,
had to sort of rely on each other.
Yeah.
And my friends. Hey, Renata. Yeah, we reconnected a lot with my friends, and over the pandemic as well. And they've been so supportive, and like Renata on here, like Janine, like you, who are really important in my life.
All we can do right now is support each other. That's all we can do as we have for each other is like to support each other. And then one last question. How can we support you? It's a weird time. Some people are working, some people aren't working. Financially, it's a weird time for people. How can we support you or things that you're working on right
now? Yeah, I mean, right now, I have a job, thank goodness. I work at UNICEF, a multinational corporation. Emergencies and crises are kind of our business, so I'm very busy with my job. So I give thanks for that as well. People can follow at Shady Diarra. Eventually, we'll get it. It was an account for my husband's hot sauce business, our family's hot sauce business. My husband's a chef, security guard, and a chef. And so he made a West African hot sauce that we had up and running. It's on hiatus right now. And we're going to get it back up and running and hopefully in some stores soon. So just follow Shay Diarra and look for updates from us there. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate this.
Awesome. Okay, Zuhirah, I want to thank you for doing this 117th episode where we got to chat and to celebrate you for your freedom. First of all, you're a very free. You know, I relate to the fact that you don't care what anyone thinks about you. You really don't, in a great way, in a very healthy, great way. I'm the same way. And you really have committed your life to culture and bettering people and culture. You know, you really have been so committed since I've known you, and the truest way, you know, not about the BS, about the being real and being, you know, authentic in everything that you do. So I'm really thrilled to have been able to acknowledge that right now. So.
Thanks so much, Damon. I really appreciate it, and really good to reconnect with you, even all the way out there in LA.
Great to see you.
Good seeing you.
You and your husband.
Night, everyone. Thanks for everyone for joining. Hey, Ben.
Bye,
Sydney.
Bye.
Love you guys. Bye.